So for the last couple of days, I've been thinking about squatting a whole bunch, more so than usual. So since I did that analysis video talking about, all these shoes versus flat shoes, me leaning over hips, bar drift, helicoptering of the bar, all that stuff, I've been thinking about it a fair bit. And so I decided for the next foreseeable future, I'm going to really focus on form. I'm going to really focus on technique, control of the bar. I'm not going to go for speed. I'm not going to go for a big weight. I'm not going to do any of that stuff. I'm just going to really try to focus on technique. So that means, I guess, a lot less volume. That means a lot less, I guess, intensive warm-ups. I'm just going to really work on technique, like I said. So you saw 100 kilo there for a dozen or a couple of reps. You saw the 140. I'm going to load the bar to 160 now, and I'm going to really start focusing and dialing in on that form. So what have I done the last few days? I've been working on my mobility, predominantly on my hips and my ankles. I think it's more of an issue of the hip. I know I said in the video it's probably the ankle, but with most things in the human body, you always have to look. So you identify the problem in a given joint or a given muscle, and usually the causes are not related to that particular muscle or joint. Usually a good approach is to look at the joint above and the joint below that particular area. So in the case of the ankle, you can devote a lot of time kind of ironing out a lot of these issues with the ankle. In my experience, if you attack the ankle directly, you might get some increased range of motion immediately, but it's usually short-lived. And the moment you kind of go to sleep, you wake back up, you kind of going back to the same kind of original range of motion. For me, what has worked before, and I've made videos about this in the past, what's worked well with me is focusing on the hips. Now, I am somebody that has APT, anterior pelvic tilt. This is where, if you think of the pelvis as a cup of water, this is where you're pouring water out of the front of the cup. So that means you're kind of, you've got the ass sticking out, you've got kind of a Donald Duck kind of posture. So I've had that for years. I've had it even in basketball. Basketball is all about kind of staying in your stance, which is kind of like a quarter squat position where you can kind of transition left to right and whatever. It's an athletic position. So I kind of, over the years, developed that kind of, anterior pelvic tilt. Not only that, but you're also kind of jumping and you're using a whole lot of quads and kind of pushing off power. So the quads become strong, the hamstrings become weak. And so there's kind of like a, like a transfer of power, I guess. There's a tilting of the pelvis because one side is pulling and the other side is not so strong, it kind of lets go, and so you have the tilt of the pelvis. And now there's many different causes of that. It's not just athletic endeavors. A whole bunch of sitting also does that to us because of the shortening of the hip flexors. You're in a 90 degree. I know George calls it the 90-degree death. George is somebody that spends a lot of time for work sitting. And he always talks about, how unhealthy it is for somebody to be in a 90-90 position. The knees are in 90 degrees, the hips are in 90 degrees. A lot of the time, your neck is also in 90 degrees because you're kind of looking down at whatever you're doing. The ankles are 90 degrees, and so that sort of stuff causes you to be in a shortened position in a lot of the joints. And so then when you finally do stand up, your joints are kind of freaked out and they're not comfortable in extending all the way to the end of range of motion. And a lot of the time, these muscles are also weak. They'll fall asleep. And so for those people, it's not just enough to stretch these muscles because the body doesn't like to stretch weak things because the fear of tearing and rupturing. And so the best approach for these individuals is to actually strengthen the muscles which are tight. And that's often a myth about the human body, or something is really tight, let's stretch it. Well, there's a reason why the body's made that muscle tight. It's probably because it's weak. Not always, but for most sedentary people, it's a case of weakness. We're not top-level athletes who are training every day and who are very active every day. In those people, there might be a case for tightness. For most, in my opinion, for most people, it's got to do with tightness. So I did a bit of a warm-up today, warming up the hip flexors. warming up the hamstrings, just kind of to restore that anterior pelvic tilt to somewhat a balanced pelvis. So anyway, that's where my mind is right now. This is how I'm tackling this. I'm gonna hit 160 and we'll have a look how that looked. So I'm not necessarily aiming to pause these reps at the bottom, but because I'm sort of focusing on controlling the weight on the way down, I kind of hit the bottom with no speed, and then it's kind of hard to kind of bounce back out of it. But anyway, when the descent is so slow, I might as well kind of pause at the bottom. But anyway, I'm going to put up 180 on the bar now, and let's see how I deal with that. Hopefully it goes okay. So that last rep, I tried to grab the bar, try to rack the bar a little bit wider, just so I can kind of keep a balance of the bar a little bit better rather than really tight, and so the bar can kind of dance on me and rotate on me. It kind of felt weird. I kind of felt like I didn't have tightness in the back of the shoulders, so I think I prefer to have it a little bit in. Anyway, I'm just trying to work out techniques of kind of refine the squat technique. But that was 180, as you saw there. Kind of slow on the way up. Maybe because I'm thinking so much. I always dream about days where I don't even have to think about squatting. I just kind of unload the bar and just think about power. I don't think about cueing. I don't think about heel pressure, toe pressure, triple pressure, or where my hips are. I just go bang. I just kind of hope one day that's going to be me. I occasionally have days like that when I kind of walk in here and the mobility is on point. I feel fresh and whatever, but yeah, I don't know. I didn't feel that today. And I'm overthinking things, I think. But anyway, I think it's healthy to think. I think it's healthy to strive to be better. But anyway, that's it for squatting today. I'm going to do something that's going really well, and that's benching. So let me warm up a little bit and see where I end up today. Okay, so that was 130. That moved well, as you saw there. I'm going to skip 135. I'm going to go to 140 right away. If that moves well, then I'll add weight. So let's see how this moves. So the magical bench press PR run stops today. So 140 there, fail. I didn't have quite the spark that I had in previous days and previous bench days. But anyway, I'm stoked about this. Like the craziest week of benching in my life. So that's 10 kilos worth of gains in 1 week, which is nuts. So I'm gonna continue what I'm doing. I'll do some back off sets now. But yeah, just overall really happy. I thought that kind of moved okay on the way down. Like I thought I had good control and whatnot, but yeah, just not today. Anyway, I'll bench again in 2 days time and see if I can improve again. But so far, really happy with the bench press.